Okay, great. My name is Nick. I am a current third-year student at UIC, and I am also an intern with the Study Abroad Office working on underrepresented student initiatives.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jordan Sweet. I'm a third-year marketing student at UIC, and I'm also the peer advisor for the Study Abroad Office.
Now we're going to open this up to the rest of the UIC Study Abroad Office staff to introduce themselves as well. Starting with Irina, yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Irina Krumova. I'm Senior Associate Director at the Study Abroad Office. Glad to see everybody at the panel and looking forward to it. And now I would like to ask Kyle to introduce himself.
Thanks, Irina. Hi, everyone. My name is Kyle Rausch. I serve as the Executive Director of the UIC Study Abroad Office, and I'm really pleased to be able to attend today and learn from our student panelists' experiences. So thanks, Nick and Jordan, for getting this together. And now to Marley.
Hi, everybody. I'm Marley Stein. I'm the Associate Director of Study Abroad, and I echo my colleague's sentiment that I'm very excited to see what Nick and Jordan put together and to hear from some of our UIC alumni.
And hi, I'm Maggie Miller. I'm the Study Abroad Advisor in the office, and likewise excited to hear about it.
All right, thank you so much. So first, I'm going to go over some basic information in terms of studying abroad, and then we'll get to the student alumni section. Share my screen really quickly. All right, this is the Black Stories from Abroad Continued event. We held this event within the last semester on October 6th. This is by SAO intern myself and peer advisor Jordan Sweet. Students. Okay, so the reason behind this panel. So as we held this event last semester, we did get a lot of new students and interest, and we wanted to hold this panel again so that more students would be able to see what we put on at the Study Abroad Office and the events that we hold, as well as the different countries and regions that we go to as well. One of my many goals during this internship is to increase underrepresented student turnout and study abroad. Even relative to our small population at UIC, which is about 7 or 8%, we still aren't going abroad at nearly similar rates. Why study abroad? There are personal, professional, and academic benefits to studying abroad. You can add an international or comparative dimension to your degree, develop transferable or soft skills, and expand your professional network by networking while abroad, as well as increasing your self-confidence and developing intercultural fluency. So this is actually some research that a former intern, Arnold Brown, has done. He found that students who study abroad have higher GPAs, higher retention rates, gain interpersonal skills, and expand their professional network. It is also true that these students tend to secure employment much quickly, and they also receive higher paying salaries after graduation. These are just some of the locations that we go to. And here are the different programs that we offer, faculty-directed programs, which are led by our faculty or professors who create programs so that students can take UIC coursework while abroad. We have our partnership programs, which are sponsored by certain organizations that we work with as well. And then we have exchange programs, which are direct exchanges to other universities. Academics abroad, UIC credit that counts towards your GPA. We go through a course approval process with you. We also recommend that you speak with your major, your minor, or your LAS pre-professional advisors as well. So this part I want people to pay particular attention to because there is going to be a question about this. The Gilman International Scholarship, the deadline for March 1st is coming up literally tomorrow. And we want you all to, if you're planning on doing that, then please do it quickly. But there's also the October 4th scholarship for programs starting between December 1st and October 31st, 2023. Here's the application process. So the first step is actually attending a first step advising session with our office. This is the Flames Abroad portal, and this is how you find the different programs that we offer as well. Questions, get in touch. You can get in touch with us at sao@uic.edu. We are in University Hall on the 5th floor. All right, and now we will get into our panel. Also, our Instagram is UIC Abroad. So starting with some of these questions that I have for our panelists. Jordan, would you like to go first with the first question?
Yeah, hello everyone, Jordan Sweet again. I just wanted to introduce our two panelists that are coming. We have two alum who graduated from UIC. We have Jenille Dickens, and we also have Guy Morris. If you guys want to come off mute and just, explain to the students how you're affiliated with UIC, study abroad, and anything else you would like to touch on.
All right, I'll go first. So as you mentioned, my name is Jenille Dickens. I graduated from UIC last spring and I studied abroad 2 years ago. Wow, that's crazy. So I studied abroad for spring 2020, literally when COVID hit. So that was pretty crazy. I went through the Temple program in Tokyo, Japan, and I got my degree in marketing.
Hi, everyone. My name is Guy Morris. I am actually a current UIC student. I'm a master's student in the program in the SPH, School of Public Health, Masters of Healthcare Administration. I got my bachelor's degree from Syracuse University in 2019. And that's actually how I studied abroad. I studied abroad with Syracuse University in 2018.
Quick question, where is Syracuse?
Say it again.
Where is Syracuse again?
Syracuse is in upstate New York.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the introduction, both of you. Now we're gonna get into some of the questions that we have for the panelists. My first question would be for Jenille and Guy both. Have you ever traveled abroad before your study abroad experience?
No, I've never been abroad before, never owned a passport, never even boarded a plane. So there was a lot of firsts for me when I did go to Tokyo.
That's brave. I don't think I could have gotten on a plane for the first time to go across any ocean.
Yeah, I'm terrified.
So I commend you. I don't know if Canada counts, but I went to Canada for a spring break trip that spring before I studied abroad in the summer. So just to Canada.
Okay, so both of you, well, Guy, you have some traveling experience, and Jenille got hers from our study abroad experience. So prior to that, why did the both of you decide to study abroad? What really drove you to study abroad rather than just staying at UIC?
For me, it was learning just how accessible it was. I always thought study abroad was something that a bunch of rich kids always just did for fun or just something they just did. And I would just always see it on media, but not for nobody I knew for real. I got a job and then I had met people my own age who would talk about study abroad casually. Like they were more like, because I grew up very lower income. So even then, like most people I knew didn't get out much. Most of my relatives never left Chicago. Even I had never left Chicago up until my late teens. So to hear people my own age speak about being in Spain, being in Italy, I'm like, what? And then they'll talk about scholarships and opportunities like that. And I'm just like, you know what, let me just look into my resources and at least try, because ultimately I felt so limited by my lack of exposure to anything that I'm like, I need to get out here and I need to try and see what more I can do for myself.
For me, it was kind of a different experience. I specifically chose Syracuse University because of their extensive study abroad program. Their study abroad program is really amazing. They have not just a partnership with different universities, they have a Syracuse University in other countries. Like I studied abroad in Madrid, Spain, and there was a Madrid, Spain, Syracuse University campus. So it was really easy for classes to transfer, but they also work with you to make sure that the courses you're taking, you're going to get credit for. You'd hate to go abroad and not really get credit for the courses, but that was my defining factor for Syracuse. And so it was funny because I went in as a pre-medicine major, and they don't tell you this before you apply, but as pre-med, it's really hard to study abroad. There are courses you must take at home, and a lot of them are very science heavy. So I didn't really get to study abroad until I was entering my senior year. So that was the summer before my senior year, and it was elective courses. So I saved up all my electives. I was like, I'm going to study abroad before I leave. And so I saved them up and just did elective courses for the summer session.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even to expand on what you said, the Temple University, which was the program that I went through to study abroad in Tokyo, that was their Tokyo campus. Their main campus is in Philadelphia, and they had campuses basically all around the world. So going there was also where I met a lot of students who was like, oh, I chose this university because it had a built-in study abroad program. Or I met students from other, like, private universities where study abroad was like the obvious thing for them. So it's really interesting to even learn like what's out there.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jenille and Guy. It sounds like, Jenille, you kind of heard through the opportunities through like classmates, colleagues, and then Guy, it was kind of in your university already because you had a plan. But if you guys wanted to both touch on that a little bit further, how did you become aware of your study abroad opportunities exactly?
Well, for me, it's kind of difficult to say because you also really have to like overcome a psychological barrier, for that lack of representation. It affects you in a lot more ways than one, to the point where it was very difficult for me to imagine myself in a different country, in a place where the language wasn't my native tongue, and to even just thrive or to just see myself there was very difficult. I feel as though being face to face, like even if someone walked up to me and said, hey, Jenille, go to the study abroad office and look at the program, I'm gonna be like, girl, what are you talking about? I got class in 5 minutes. Like it was very difficult for me to overcome that. And I guess like through media, really, like YouTube, watching travel vlogs from other people, just to watch people do it over and over again. It's not like a one and touch deal. Like I don't even think people who might view this panel or like see a poster can like really break that point just from that one interaction alone. So it's that constant reminder and that constant ability to imagine that for yourself, but then also going deeper and building a plan and building out a strategy. Oftentimes it's hard to commit if you can't see from point A to point, like the last point that you get to. Oh, okay, I can actually take these classes. Wow, okay, cool. I'm talking to my Irina in the office, like, what you mean? Oh, wait, can I go to Tokyo? I remember that conversation. Like at first it was Barcelona, only because I chose that because that was what was recommended. But then Irina asked me like, well, of all places you would want to go, like, what would you pick? And I was like, well, is Tokyo possible? And she was like, absolutely, it's possible. So even just to have someone in your corner to like affirm that for you and to help you map that out and know that that fits in your strategy, like, all 4 years, I'm going to go and take these classes, get my bachelor's degree, let people know, and then study abroad as an option that makes just as much sense as everything else.
Thank you.
I
I
answered the question.
I actually just wanted to say that Jenille is part of the reason why I'm actually here in the first place, why I'm an intern at Study Abroad Office in the first place, because she attended a AAA pop-up advising session with the Study Abroad Office, and we had a real nice meeting afterwards, and that's how I got sort of into this. So I'm really appreciative for Jenille. She's one of my favorite people, and she knows that.
Yes.
But I actually wanted to ask about what your friends and family members' reactions to you all were in terms of your studying abroad experience.
I'll let Guy go because I always talk first. So go
ahead. My family was really supportive of me going abroad. I'm from Chicago, born and raised on the South Side. And I have always kind of like taken charge of my own education, even like in elementary school. I knew I wanted to do something different. I wanted to expand beyond just what I saw in my community. And so I decided for myself in like 7th, 8th grade, I wanted to go to Whitney Young. Didn't get into Whitney Young. I got into Lane Tech. And going to Lane really opened up so many opportunities, but it also showed my family that I could go far away and still live. I can still survive. I'll be okay. And so that really kind of opened them up to the fact that you can do anything you want. And my cousin, she's about 2 years older than me. She went to Africa for 2 weeks when she was in high school with the program. I think it was called Upward Bound. And so our family was just really receptive to getting as many experiences as you want and can. And so they were really supportive of me going abroad. And that was something I really wanted to do. So they saw my passion for it. So they weren't going to stop me and say, we're scared for you. My mom would never let anybody in my family be scared for me, especially when I'm not scared to do something.
I am so happy to hear like experiences like that, because even from the community that I grew up, I'm from Southside too, I'm from Roseland, and I had a similar experience. Like my mama really wanted me to go to Whitney Young. I believe that's what you have to test to get in or something like that. And she didn't even want to chance me not testing in. So she just sent me to go to school in the suburbs where my dad stayed at. But thing about my family though is that like I'm first generation for college, period. So my whole family was like more in the sense of, it's not that I didn't have support, because the support was more in the sense of, we're just happy if you're happy type of thing. Like if I chose to drop out of high school, if I was happy doing that, then they would not have, like, it wouldn't have been like a big deal. But in terms of like me studying abroad, like I really didn't think that I had a lot of support from the family side, mostly because most of my family didn't really get what I've been up to and what I've been doing. Even when I talk about my major, like what I'm pursuing career-wise today, they don't understand, which is totally fine. It can be isolating though, to not have like that kind of like community. And when I mentioned that I was going to Japan, like of all places, like they were freaking out. Like, really, you're going to Asia? And like, don't let COVID hit too. Because when COVID hit, people was blowing on my phone saying like, you need to come back. Like, this is crazy. Why would you even go out there? Like, my dad thought it was personal. He was like, are you trying to get away from me? Like, I'm like, dude, what? Like, this is study abroad. Because like the concept was like so far removed. It was like, so they were like, even my friends and family, like I would mention going abroad, but I don't think it really sunk in for them that meant I would be away for 4 months. And then when it finally came down time for me to be like, okay, my flight leaves in like 2 days, they were like, whoa, you were serious? Like, this was really a thing? So yeah, like it took a lot. It felt lonely because it was like, I really did not have anyone around me who understood. But when I did go and I met people like peers of mine who were also Black, who also had similar backgrounds and experiences and stuff like that, there was like 5 of us, but I still found a community. So it's really cool to have that like dual-sided thing where, yeah, my family and like a lot of my community cared a lot about education. They cared a lot about exposure, but they also feared the unknown so much to where it was hard for me to maintain that confidence in myself, because they were just like, girl, that's crazy. Like, just let's stay in the city. Why are you going over there? You're not a citizen over there. So yeah, maintain that open-mindedness.
Thanks for touching on that, Jenelle. I definitely think, those are great testimonies for students to hear, because being, of Black and African American descent, we do have some of those challenges in our family. So I commend you for overriding that, and staying true to your gut and to your passions and everything. But the next question I want to ask is, how did you all afford to study abroad? Did you receive any grants or scholarships? And if so, which ones?
I'll do this one real quick because my story is kind of funny, and it touches kind of on something we may touch on later. But honestly, I was so headstrong about going abroad. I didn't care how much it cost. I didn't care what money I needed to do to get it. I was like, I'm going to take out the loans I need for it. This is why I came here. This is why I wanted this school. And so for me, it was by any means necessary. I saved my coins. I got like a scholarship or grant through my church. So finding community that will support you. And after the fact, I learned that my school had like resources and grants and opportunities where I could have got funding and didn't have to use loans, but any means necessary was my way of going abroad. And it helped because I did go abroad. I had to take out a loan, but it was finding the study abroad offices, finding the support systems. It's really beneficial. But if you can't find those, loans will save you.
I swear to God, I was in the same boat as Guy. I was like, listen, I wouldn't mind if I was going to take out a loan, if I was going to get in debt, I would do so for the study abroad experience. But fortunately, I did not have to. I had more than enough in scholarships and funding to do so. And specifically, the scholarships and funding I ended up getting, well, I'll tell you what I applied for was the Fund for Education Abroad. I also applied for the Gilman, and I applied directly through the Temple program, because when you apply through the program, sometimes they have scholarships of their own. And I missed the deadline for a few. So, if you miss a deadline for a few, like, don't beat yourself up too much, but like, try to get on top of them deadlines. Cause I swear to God, if it wasn't for Mr. Fields, sometimes catching me up, I'm like, oh my God, Mr. Fields, I need the letter in like 2 days. Like, he came through, but don't do that to y'all peoples. But let me get more organized. So I did get the scholarship for the Fund for Education Abroad. Through them, it's almost as if there's a pool of scholarships that they can allocate to applicants based off of like, your identity or like what you need or your destination. So for me, I got the Tamara H. Bryant Memorial Fund, which was about $5,000, and it was specifically for African-American students. And then through the Gilman, I actually did not get the Gilman. And I also had a scholarship that I had been on, even as a, my usual UIC track, like my usual semesters. I had a full ride scholarship for them. But my thing was, I didn't know if it would apply for study abroad. So I remember like I was supposed to meet with one of the founders, and this was through AAA and the African American Academic Network. And we all met up and we were supposed to meet like the founder, our connection there. And I was just talking to him and I was just like, yeah, by the way, like I got, accepted for study abroad to go to Tokyo. He was like, oh, great. Did you know our scholarship covers that? And I was like, oh, I didn't have to ask. Thank you. Cool. Awesome. So that was really nice. And yeah, so those were, and I also received, I like about 500 from the program itself. So all those things combined definitely helped cover the cost of room and board and cost of like my classes and everything.
Yeah, y'all be like Jenille, find the resources. You don't have to take out loans. You don't have to be like me.
You're eligible more than you think. Like, definitely put yourself out there, definitely apply and be intentional. If you want to reach out to me about tips on how to construct your personal statements and, what you should do, then I'm always open and available for that.
Great. Next question is, how did you grow from that experience as an individual?
Woo. Can't nobody tell me nothing. I tell niggas all the time. I'm like, ever since I studied abroad, it was like I've done multiple things throughout my academic experience where it's like you had to get used to being uncomfortable. And it was one of the, I believe, like the final pushes I needed to where literally I'm like, I went abroad to a different country. I also interned abroad there too. So I was working, I was going to class, I was navigating on my own, I was making friends, and then I survived a global pandemic. So now when I'm interviewing, I just love just dropping that stuff in there. Like they say, kids who go abroad, they never shut up about it. Like, why would you? Don't let people guilt you about having a unique and extraordinary experience, because I'm carrying conversations with the director of my internships, like, oh yeah, like internationally, this is how they handle global advertising and marketing and stuff like that. And she's like, dang, how do you know that? I'm like, because I did it. So it's like it gives you so much confidence is what I should say. So I support anyone who's trying to put their foot out there to do that.
For me, any experience that's different from what you experience day to day, month to month, week to week is worth the trip, worth the money, worth it, because it's just different. It's not inherently better. It's not inherently worse. It's just different. And the only way you can understand that is when you experience it. And that's by going somewhere different. If you got to start out with going to a different neighborhood because you've only been to your neighborhood, start out there, then go to a different city, then go to a different state, and then go to a different country. You don't have to start out going to a different country if you've never been outside of your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But just getting that different experience is worth it. I can't tell you, okay, yeah, I changed in this exact way, but I changed. I'm I don't want to say more worldly person. I sound like higher than thou, but it's just like a different type of experience. It's really hard to explain because you don't know someone else's culture from TV, from movies until you go there and experience it. I didn't know what Spanish culture, and I don't know if I said this, I studied abroad in Madrid, Spain. And I was only there for 6 weeks, and I went to other cities as well, because I think Jenille had put it in the comments, summer internships. That's basically what I had. I went for a summer. And so that quick little stint gave me perspective that you wouldn't ordinarily have without going somewhere else. And it doesn't even have to be a different country. Like I said, just doing something different is that experience you want and probably that you need, because it gives you a lens to look at, like a different lens to look at it from. You're like, okay, this is how it kind of happened when I went here. Maybe I can look at it from this lens now. So it just gives you another lens of life to look at.
That is so true. And just the semester just before I studied abroad, I actually interned at the official marketing agency for the city of Chicago. So there was also really what drilled into my head that, hey, Chicago is a destination. It's a global destination. It's a study abroad destination for a lot of people. A lot of people come to this city because they're yearning for culture, to experience something new. So you have something right now in the palm of your fingertips, that your campus is centered right there in the heart of the city. You can go out there and you can look and see your surroundings from a whole new light. And I started doing that way before I even went abroad. You can give yourself that experience literally today.
Yeah, I like how Guy, you pointed out, using your study abroad experiences to kind of put you in the position to know that you can do anything. You as well, Jenille. I think the confidence is everything, but I did want to touch on how did studying abroad change your professional and academic life? Like, what were the exact benefits that you can say, okay, studying abroad changed me for the better?
I can go quickly because I think Janelle's probably gonna have a lot more professional connections, but I just went abroad because I wanted to go abroad. I wasn't focused on trying to make connections or networking. I just wanted to let go in another country and just say I did it. And so I was really focused on having that immersive experience, living in the Spanish culture. I stayed at a homestay. So I stayed with a Spanish man who kept students for the semester or forever long they were staying. And I had a housemate as well. So it was really just knowing that I could do it and I wasn't relying on someone else. That's kind of how I grew. I didn't really make that many academic or professional connections. I didn't go out and try and hang with the teachers and things like that. I was really hanging out with my like fellow students and peers. And honestly, that's where I made my connections. I have friends that I studied abroad, oh my God, now 4 years ago. I'm still like best friends with the people I took a weekend trip to Rome with. Like we stayed in a tiny Airbnb pretty much on the same bed for 3 days. But it was that experience of like, we in Rome, we don't care. This could be a shack. We're somewhere else. We're international now. It was like, we don't care. We're here. We did it. And that's that experience that I think a lot of people are sometimes looking for, to just say you did it and have somebody else to say you did it with. And that was really fun and like an interesting time to have. And that's kind of how I grew professionally.
For me, my intentions were very much there, professionally, academically. And it's not even like I was looking at everything through a very structured lens like that. It's just that I knew that I was going to grow from my experience. Like I could have not chosen to intern. I could have just studied, but I said no. Like I think I really want to learn how to actually apply a lot of the things I'm learning, in that more of that context. So in terms of like professional connections, I even consider the friends I made professional connections. Like we're giving each other interview tips. Like we're talking to each other now. Just last year, I flew to Cali for the first time to visit this person I met on their campus. And we spent half our time kikiing, laughing about like TV and jokes and stuff. And the other half of our time discussing our goals, our, financial plans, our different things that we're going to do. Both of us interns. So we still keep in contact with like our former mentors and like our former managers at the companies that we were at. And a very important direction in my career came when I segued within advertising, specifically within marketing, specifically into advertising. I took a global advertising class there, and me and my teacher, like, we would get carried away during class time because we would literally just complain about advertising. The class would be about advertising, but we would be sitting there like, dang, like, it's just so crazy how like they're manipulating us. They're like psychologically doing all these different things. And then he told me, he said, like, you should go into advertising. And I'm like, dude, don't you know that we sit up here all day, like complaining about it? What you talking about? And he said, exactly, like, you have a knack for pulling out the deeper message and pulling out more that the field can use a lot more of people who want to do things differently and stuff like that. So I considered it because within marketing, it was still very technical and not creative enough for me. So being able to talk to him about that type of stuff let me understand myself. And then the second story is actually kind of funny because I was supposed to be going on some type of field trip with the rest of my classmates, but we all had to get there on our own. So of course I got lost. I'm wandering around this like hotel / theater venue, and I wandered into the wrong room. And for some reason they had Pokemon playing on like big screen TVs. But it's like a bunch of grown men sipping drinks and champagne and stuff. And I'm like wandering around here, like, I know it's a lot of people here. I'm like, are there students here? Like, am I lost? Like, and I asked this random dude, I said, like, why are we watching Pokemon right now? Like, have you seen a class come through here? And he said, well, first of all, like, our team created this. Like, we create like all the background stuff. Like, I'm the creative director of all of this. And then I started my career in advertising. So he just started talking to me about his career. And I'm like, what? Advertising led to this? Like, you're international? Like, what do you mean? So through him, I got his connections. And, you know, this is just all a part of the journey and how you wander and stumble into different things and you meet different people along the way. So now I understand more, like, this is the direction that I want to at least go in for now.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So now I'd like to ask the age-old question that I'm sure we've all been waiting for. Discrimination. How did you experience discrimination abroad? I feel as if, as a political science major, it's important that I acknowledge this, especially considering the issues that are currently ongoing in Ukraine, especially with African migrants and African students. So what were your experiences in your countries, and how did you navigate that?
I can start off really quickly. So I went to Spain and they speak Spanish. I do not speak Spanish at all. And I would not advise to go to another country and you don't speak the language at all. But like I said, I was like, I'm going for the experience. I don't care, no hablo español, I'm still going. But I was really fortunate when we got there. I made friends, and it's kind of like this with minorities. I made friends with other Black people, and thankfully they happened to be Dominican, so they spoke Spanish and they looked like me. So it was very comforting to know that, it's going to sound bad, we would all get discriminated against together. And so that didn't happen though, but I had that community in case it happened. And they always taught us in the Spanish culture, everybody stares. People stare a lot in Spain, and you're on the train, they stare, walking down the street, staring. So we never experienced like outward racism, discrimination to our face, because anything said in Spanish was understood by the whole group I was with. So they couldn't come for us in another language without us knowing it and saying something back and actually having that conversation about it. So I never really experienced outward in my face discrimination when I was abroad.
For me, I feel like my initial experience is more regarding checking my own biases. I was very focused on attempting to not have anything I may have internalized from things that were given, like I was exposed to back at home in terms of, like what Japanese culture is, like what it means to be Asian, what it means to live in Asia, out into my surroundings, because that's a huge part of what they teach you before you go abroad, is like recognize that you're not at home. So it is important to just respect your environment and to be more of a listener and a learner than a person who's trying to imprint what they know onto everything around you. And then another huge question I had in the back of my mind is like, okay, there's nowhere I can really go in the world where I'm not facing discrimination or prejudice for the color of my skin, for being American, for being African American specifically. So it's like, to what extent would it be different? To what extent would I be able to recognize my treatment? So there were like a few notable examples I can think of, but the most one that was like more impactful to me actually happened at the end of the year. But the first thing I do remember is like the simple sense of isolation that you get, you know, like even when I go to class or even when I'm like around my peers, it was just way more difficult to connect. I remember being in Shibuya, which is like the main shopping district of Tokyo. And I was just walking home from my internship, but they had an Ivy Park collection out in front of like, I think it was like an Adidas store. And I was just like, oh, snap. And I like went to go look at the display because I'm like, it's Beyonce, like, look at all this. Like, it was so cute. But then immediately like 3 workers came out to make sure I wasn't gonna steal nothing. And I'm like, they seem so paranoid about it. I'm like, oh, okay, it's probably because I'm Black. You know, it's a lot of things where it's like, you are easily gaslit when you're experiencing discrimination when you're a person of color, because it's often so subtle, but yet, you know, when you're being treated differently. I was shoved in the middle of like, you know, like walking down the sidewalk. I was going on a tour with like a group of people, but I was singled out and was almost shoved into incoming traffic because I was just there. But good thing I'm from Chicago, because you're not gonna just shove me, what you thought this was. Secondly, I had an experience where I walked into this thrift store. It was called Chicago Harajuku. And I'm not trying to speed run through all this. I just know that like last time we didn't necessarily have enough time to cover everyone's questions. So I'm trying to like get through this as best as I can. I walked into a thrift store called Chicago Harajuku, and immediately like there was a couple, like there was a Black couple, and they pulled me aside and they were like, hey sis, how do we feel about this? And I was like, what you mean? I look at what they were looking at, and there was just a wall full of Jim Crow buttons. Like they were supposed to be like antique vintage buttons, but they were like dark-skinned girls eating watermelon, like old can of beans, like Uncle Sam, like a whole wall full of them. And we're like looking at this like, what the hell? And we like called over the clerk and we're trying to explain to her, and like through like Google Translate, like y'all need to take this down. And I meant to go back and check on it, but so many things closed because of COVID that I never went back to like see what was going on with that. But it was just crazy because like rap music was playing all through this store. Like there was all type of paraphernalia up there, like Chicago, whatever. But I'm like, whatever minimal research y'all could have done to like avoid that wall of buttons, like that was clearly not undertaken. Just several things, but I guess like, oh, and I was also, someone tried to hit me with their car actually, but I don't know if that's because I was a person of color or because they were just an asshole. Like I was kind of just, sorry for cursing, but it was like, I was with a group of friends and they were trying to like come through like this mini walkway, alleyway with their car or whatever. And it was weird because like there was nowhere literally for any of us to go. So they just like slammed on the gas, and it was like, it wasn't like I was injured or really hit or anything, just kind of grazed. But that level of callousness, I was like, what? That's crazy. But finally, at the very end of the year, it came time for us to give presentations on our experiences abroad in Japan. And literally, I just saw such a huge, stark difference between my non-Black, specifically my white classmates' presentations and the Black classmates' presentations. Like my white classmates, like they were being given gifts all the time. Like people were walking up to them, like telling them how pretty they were all the time. Like they were talking about how many friends they made and different types of things. And, you know, when you're abroad, you do find a community of people around you. Like, you know, I was able to make friends with like, you know, pretty much all the other Black women or like all the other Black students and stuff. And we were able to like, you know, like sit there and just be like, wow, like that's just so crazy how that was able to happen to them. Because for a lot of us, we didn't really anticipate anyone would ever like speak to us openly at all. And it's just that like feeling that you get when it's just like, wow, like there's nothing I could have done to be more open, to be more friendly, to try to like actually form friendships and partnerships. Whereas for other people, it's kind of like they probably also don't understand why it was more easy for them, you know? So I can't say for sure that all of those things were due to discrimination or like due to like the fact that I'm Black, but I also had a hard time imagining it happening to like my white classmates and like my white peers. So yeah, I feel like that's just all a part of it. But at the end of the day, overall, definitely had amazing experiences. It's just I ultimately learned that even though I'm trying to suspend my understanding of racism and discrimination, how I experience it in America, and not try to imprint it, you do understand that that's a global thing. And that is going to be a part of a valuable experience when you are trying to navigate through different spaces like that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jenille and Guy. Those experiences, mean the world to us. They definitely shape us. And like you said, racism and discrimination is different in Chicago, America, globally. But we do want to wrap this up. So I would just say for our last question, before we open it up to the audience, what's some advice you would give to students who are considering studying abroad?
Do it. Do it by any means necessary. Just do it. If it fits in your class schedule, great. If it doesn't, make it fit. Take those electives this year. Take your required courses when you come back. Take all your required courses now. Find a way. There's always a way. And so just do it.
I strongly agree. It's not even just in terms of like, even how you said, like, just do it to do it. Like, you deserve the experience to study abroad. Don't think that you don't deserve it. You're more than able to acquire it. All the resources are there for you. And I'm here to support you. Guy is here to support you. And that's why we're all here. Tell your friends, tell your family. Because I definitely want us to be more like exposed to all these different opportunities. And yeah.
I just wanted to add, like, on top of what Jenille said, tell your friends, tell your family, get excited about it. If you're excited, people feel that excitement and that passion from you. And even if they're scared for you or scared because of what you may experience, don't let their fear take away from your experience, because someone else's fear can really hinder you if you allow it to. But be happy, be excited, be a little terrified, but still get on that plane and go ahead and do it.
And I let Nick know, I let everybody I encounter who's considering study abroad know, like, I am your biggest cheerleader, because my main struggle was wondering if people really cared about my experience, what I did. Like, it's important for you to care about your own things, right? But for me, I felt like people were either caught up in their own thing or they were so busy, like, they didn't want to answer my questions. They don't want to see the pictures I took. They don't want to see what I'm dealing with. But no, like, as I've been there and I've been through it, like, my biggest, like, thing that makes me so happy is when people reach out to me and they say, hey, like, what did you do for study abroad? Like, where did you go? I'm thinking of doing the same thing. I'm like, bet, let's go. Like, I'm bugging Nick all the time. Like, I will be in your corner. I will be your number one cheerleader no matter what you decide to do, because I genuinely do care. And I think people would benefit a lot from just expressing how important it is to them who've done it to reach back and really let other students know that this is something I did and you can do it too.
Yes, Jenille and Guy, thank you so much. I want to clap it up for you all. Thank you for joining today for the panel. We want you to stick around. We just want to open up the floor for our audience if you have any questions. I do see we have some questions about the Gilman Scholarship. It's
We also
due
have a
tomorrow
question
night
for us.
at 11:59 p.m. Yes, we do. As a peer advisor, my name is Jordan Swede. I'll be studying abroad in Milan, Italy as a fashion design and merchandising student. I just wanted to touch on the application process and, how our family supported us during this process in the last few minutes. For me, my cousin, she was also a Gilman Scholarship recipient, such as myself. She studied abroad in Finland. So I kind of already had like the idea of study abroad and that it was possible. So when it was my turn to do so, I actually spoke with Kyle, who's the director of our office, and just kind of touched base with him. Then I met Marley, who's my advisor, and just really like, this is weird, but fell in love with the team. They're very helpful and they definitely guide you in the right direction. As for the process, it was pretty tedious, but it's definitely like doable. You just have to have a set in stone plan. Like I said, talk to your advisors. They're literally there for you if you have any questions. And as for my family, like I said, my cousin already studied abroad, so it's kind of just like me following in her steps. And yeah, joining the team was amazing. I joined in November. That also had a lot to do with my study abroad application process, being an advisor, talking to students. Definitely, I believe the outreach and engagement is important. So, Nick, if you wanted to touch on your experience at all.
Yeah, so I have quite a big history with study abroad, despite never having actually studied abroad. So like I said, Jenille is the one who pretty much got me into it in the first place. Although I do remember meeting Maggie like my first semester. And I kept pestering her about sending her questions like every hour about things that related to the SOUL program that I wanted to go on. But for me, I think the most beneficial thing that you can do is reach out to students who have been on those programs. So for example, the CIEE program that I'm going to go on next fall for a year is they have blogs on the channel, and then you can actually see the names of the students. So what I did was I reached out to each person that I could find, and they'd lead me to somebody. So for example, I just had a conversation with a woman named Helen Chung, who was Native Korean and who told me about her experiences and how long she was there, networking events, financial aid, housing, how the gym looks, blogging, whether it's paid or not paid, debit card usage, phone plans, everything like that. And I think that that's really integral for students to understand, especially if you really want to make the most out of it. I'm definitely someone who likes to plan my way through a lot of things. So if you have any questions, definitely contact me. I'll leave my contact info below as well. But yeah, I'm really glad to be on this team. I actually got on the team because I was speaking with Irina, who's my supervisor, beforehand, and Lauren Gallagher, who's also my career development advisor, put me in contact with her, and I ended up having a meeting with the study abroad team, specifically Kyle and Irina, over the summer, and that's where I am today.
Yes, so thank you for that, Nick. Again, if we had any audience who had any questions, you can now come off the mute, and we'll all try to answer that question for you. Or if not, you could drop it in the chat, whatever you prefer.
There are no questions I just wanted to say real quick that I would like to echo what everybody has said so far, but I think the most important thing to remember is that you have a lot of support. You have a lot of support in the office. We have advisors who are very experienced in what they do. They love their job. I think we can pretty much say, and probably Nick and Jordan already know, that why we're all here in the study abroad office, we're all so passionate. I still remember talking to Jenille, and when she was surprised to hear that she could go to Tokyo, but this is it. Yeah, there are different programs, different options. If you're hesitant, you don't know what to do, obviously talk to students who studied abroad, but advisors are here as well. We're here to help you. And if we cannot find the information, we don't know something, we'll try to get it to you. I've had appointments with family members. So yeah, and if your parents maybe have questions, we're here.
Like Jordan said, if there are any questions, comments, or concerns. Oh, Guy, did you want to say something really quickly?
I was just gonna say, someone had said in the chat like about experience or like when is the best time to go abroad. Definitely talk to an advisor about that, but I know from my own experience, just trying to kind of do a little mapping to yourself before even going to the advisor, of knowing what classes or courses you must take. Most majors have elective courses. See if those courses can be taken at other places. And if you are on a hard science track, like I was pre-med when I was doing a lot of my abroad, is that hard science courses, they usually don't let you take them abroad. It may be different here at UIC or with different colleges, but usually those hard sciences, they want you to get them from the institution you're getting your degree from. So look for those elective courses. I was pre-med, but took like psychology and culture classes when I went to Spain. So they weren't throwaway courses, but they were courses I could take somewhere else. So just try to find ways you can fit it into your major. Pick up a minor if you want to, like, and fit it in. Just find ways that work for you, that still allow you to do what you want to do with your time.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Touching on that real quick, I just wanted to say, you know, all the classes you take abroad are UIC credits, so they will fit in your degree. Obviously, there are some majors that are a little tougher than others, but we can help you find the ones that'll fit best with your degrees. But everything you take abroad is UIC credit. It shouldn't delay your graduation, especially if you're planning ahead.
Nick and Jordan, I hope you won't mind if I just jump in real quick while we wait for any questions, and just so I can thank Guy and Jenille for sharing your expertise and about your personal experiences. I continue learning a lot about supporting all students going abroad, so it's imperative that we have your stories heard. So thank you for taking time to share about your experiences. I also wanted to acknowledge today is International Study Abroad Day, so that's one reason we chose to host this panel on here. And if people on the call are fine, I'd love to just grab a quick snapshot so we can celebrate what we did on this day by lifting up these stories. So if you are okay with having your photo taken, feel free to put your camera on and I'll grab a screenshot. If you're not, if you just want to put it in the chat, then never mind, I'll abort, but hopefully people don't mind if we take a quick screenshot. All right, let me go ahead and get my screen snipping tool ready. And on the count of 3, I'll grab it, okay? 1, 2, 3. All right, don't think it worked very well for me. Does someone know a better way to do this? Let me try my phone, because we were all frozen for a bit. I'll try the phone. All right, let's try again. 1, 2, 3. Much better, thank you guys.
We actually have a question in the chat. If we studied abroad, would we only be able to stay with other people? Ooh, okay. Oh, Maggie just answered it. Okay, thank you.
I had a single dorm. I didn't have any roommates or anything. I mean, it was like a dorm building, but I didn't have any roommates.
If there are no other questions, we could potentially just sneak in another one here. Do you all have any embarrassing stories from your abroad experience?
I almost ran into somebody's child. Like, they were like 2 feet tall, and I was just walking on my way to class, and there was a daycare literally. Oh my God, I always love walking by because like the little kids will be all playing, but some parent was walking like several feet behind her kid, and her kid was like running ahead, and I almost bowled over the kid. But instead of being a normal person and just being like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I tried to apologize in Japanese, and then it came out awkward. And my friend was like, who could actually speak Japanese, she was like, girl, what did you say? And I'm like, nothing. And I just couldn't. So that was embarrassing for me. And the mom was looking at me like, I don't want to relive it again.
My stories they're not really embarrassing, but like going to any country where you don't speak the language, you just have some type of embarrassment going anywhere where you're like I was in Spain, the only word I remember now is permiso, which means like excuse me or pardon me. Because pardon me got me through anything. Pardon me, I need to get off the train, this must stop. Like, it was the word I knew. So just going through and like not knowing the language, but then like getting lost in the city. My experiences are kind of like embarrassing and fun at the same time. Like, getting lost in a new city is super fun. It's kind of scary, especially when it's in another language, but it's so fun because Google Maps helps you get home. But it's really interesting being somewhere different and losing yourself, or getting like literally getting lost and having to find your way. It's really like an eye-opening experience. A little embarrassing because you're like, I'm an adult, how did I get lost? But you're in a new country, so you got to like give yourself some grace.
Marley, did you need to say something? Okay. Before we really end here, I would have just loved to say that thank you so much, everyone, for being able to attend. There are plenty of other Black organizations on campus that I think you all should also check out as well. The African American Academic Network, which Jenille mentioned, Dr. Fealty is great. The African American Cultural Center, headed by Dr. Blair, the Black Student Union, BUILD, which is Black Brothers United and Lunchtime Discussions. There's so many, the African Student Council. I would really implore you all to check those out. We're just a function of that, and I'd love if you all were also able to study abroad as well. So thank you so much for being able to attend. Thank you again.
You're more than welcome.
Yeah, this is great. I put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out. I also work for UIC right now as well, so I'll be here.
Yeah, hit me up anytime y'all want to, even if it's just to talk about anything. Like, it doesn't have to be study abroad. So I'm here.
Thanks to our panelists. Thank you, audience, for attending today. And we hope you have a great rest of your day. We do have, I think, another event coming up for Study Abroad Day if you want to check out our story on our Instagram. And yeah, have a great day, Flames.
One more thing, I'm so sorry. AAAN, AACC, so African American Cultural Center, pop-up advising is coming up very soon. I believe that is March 9th. So if any Black students are able to attend that, we're going to be in Adams Hall in the African American Cultural Center on March 9th. So just be aware of that from 11 to 1. So just make sure that you're there if you're able to. I think it's going to be a really good time, and you'll get to meet me in person, and we'll be able to talk a bit more about, studying abroad and the application process.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, panelists.
No problem.